Has this ever happened to you? You went to bed fine and you woke up in the middle of the night, 2 a.m. in the morning. You can't go back to bed. Your mind is racing. You try to sleep again, but you just can't for some reason. And then you get frustrated because you have a long day ahead of you, and you really, really need to get some sleep. Otherwise, your day is going to be ruined. What do? That is what we're going to explore today. So we're going to cover some solutions for you that you can apply tonight. What would you discover today? You would discover the causes for sleep disruption. There are many causes that contribute to sleep disruption, and very few people talk about them. So you're going to learn something new today. We're going to cover how do you prevent disrupted sleep or interrupted sleep, and more importantly, how do you get back to sleep? Okay, so there's prevention, and there's also a way for you to deal with some of the uncontrollable disruptions. So I'm going to talk about that, and we will always finish today. Every single session will always finish with some actions. Actions is what makes this course transformative for you. If you don't remember anything from the course, just remember, do something now. Do something today. Don't just read about it. Don't just listen to it and nod to it and agree to it. Do something and share what would you do in the community. Make a public accountability announcement of what you will do from today's information. Okay, I'm going to cover that a little bit later. Let's just start off with causes for sleep disruption. So, what are some of the causes? Very few people know about this. Your doctors don't talk about this. Metabolic dysfunction. So what I'm talking about is blood sugar regulation problems. So people think blood regulation or blood sugar regulation is something for diabetic to think about. But did you know that majority of people in the Western society are actually classified as pre-diabetic? Just think about that for a moment. Majority of people. We live in a society where sugar consumption is just incredibly common, in excess. So it's in everything. It's in yogurt. We eat huge amounts of fruit. We drink fruit juice. We have energy drink. It is everywhere. And what happens is when your body gets to a point where it can no longer deal with the sugar, that's when your sugar level goes up and down and up and down. And when it's down, your adrenal gland, your stress hormone is fired up. And therefore you feel hungry, you feel hangry, hungry, angry. You'll be looking for the next fix to get that back to even. And that peak and trough has a huge impact on your sleep. When you go to bed, if you don't have enough food, you go to bed very quickly. The food that you ate breaks down, especially if you have a high carbohydrate diet. It goes down as you sleep asleep, and it goes down really low because you haven't eaten for hours. Then your body panics. Your adrenal gland fires up, and all the adrenaline, noradrenaline, cortisol is fired up, telling you, emergency, you need more sugar. So you wake up and you look for the midnight snack. You look for the thing you raid the fridge, or you end up eating what you shouldn't be eating, a box of Cheetos or something, some junk food. Then you go back to bed. And that creates a really unhealthy situation for you. First, you overeat. Second, this waking up in the middle of the night is a major disruptor. I'll show you what you can do about it, of course. So this is not just a complaint session about all the problems. We're going to give you solutions. Okay, another common cause is night urination. Getting up multiple times in the evening to urinate very disruptive, right? We have to go to the toilet, but that's not good sleep. Nightmares, another thing that it's a major problem for a lot of you. Heavy nightmares, waking up screaming in the middle of the night, night terrors. What can you do about that? Looking after loved ones. So for some of you, you have loved ones with health issues and you gotta help them. And that means you can't always control your sleep. You have to wake up when they need you to wake up. And then you have to deal with it. And a lot of people can't get back to sleep. I'll show you some of the strategies of dealing with that as well today. So quite a lot of content. Let's get started. So how do you actually prevent interrupted sleep? And you have a few choices. Okay, so for you who are having metabolic dysfunction, especially if you know, get your blood sugar checked, get your fasting insulin checked, get your HbA1c checked. Just see what the ranges are. For sleep, I've mentioned this previously in terms of taking ownership of your health, taking ownership of your energy, vitality, and the quality of your sleep. One of the tests highly recommend is get a basic understanding of your metabolic health. So HbA1c shows the average amount of glycation that's in your red blood cells. So it's a very good indicator to know if you're on the verge of being pre-diabetic. Other signs that you have in terms of metabolic dysfunction are like if you're hungry all the time. You constantly need to eat. And when you don't eat, you get hungry, you're looking for food. That is a sure sign of metabolic dysfunction. If you got a lot of weight on your gut, you're almost guaranteed to have metabolic dysfunction. So we want to deal with that for sure. Here's what you can do. The immediate solution, this is what I recommend. Before you go to bed, about an hour before bed, take a drink of apple cider vinegar and 1 teaspoon of raw honey and a half teaspoon of MCT oil or C8 oil. Let me talk about these ingredients. So apple cider vinegar is full of acetic acid, and that is acetic acid is something that's really helpful creating ketones. And what it does for you is improve your blood sugar regulation. So it's less likely to fluctuate. It's so effective. In fact, if you take apple cider vinegar the night before your blood sugar test, you will notice that it's actually lower than what it normally is. It's very effective for blood sugar regulation. So have a drink, a bit of warm water, a tablespoon. You might want to start with teaspoon if you're not used to it. Apple cider vinegar. Raw honey it's mainly fructose. It's got a lot of fructose. And what that does is it goes to your liver. And that is the primary source for sugar when your brain needs it as you sleep. Right? That's why we pick raw honey. Just a teaspoon is enough. You don't need a lot. Just a teaspoon, mix it in. It's a nice drink, and that will help you. First, your blood sugar regulation will be more even because of the apple cider vinegar, but with the honey, it provides fuel for your brain. And the ketones is another important fuel for the brain. So ketones come from the C8. The MCT oil, MCT stands for medium chain triglyceride. It's really a derivative of coconut oil. So it's very rich in coconuts. Find a good C8 oil, just a half teaspoon, just start off with. And that will give you a good source of fuel. In the short term, in the medium term, you can do that tonight. Go to the drugstore, get your C8, get your MCT from the supermarket, raw honey. Make sure it's not pasteurized honey, but raw honey. Very important. Mix it up and have a drink. For a lot of people, it just stops the wake up, right? very, very effective for a lot of people, especially if you have metabolism issues. But that is in the short term. The longer term is really to address the ultimate problem, which is that you're not very good at burning fat for energy. You're completely relying on sugar and carbohydrate for energy, which means you're not flexible. Human beings genetically are designed to be able to burn both fat and sugar, but because in our society our diet is so high in carbohydrate, and a lot of it is junk carbohydrate or highly processed carbohydrate. These means that we don't have a need to process fat, so we get bad at it. As I say, if you don't use it, you lose it. This is what happens. You're not forcing your body to burn fat, and therefore it doesn't learn how to burn fat. And being able to use both fuel for energy, which is something I'll talk about later in the course, because it's very important for long-term health that you develop this metabolic flexibility. Not only will you sleep better, you'll perform better in everything you do. Your mental focus will be just another level. If you have not experienced it, you can't imagine what it feels like. Your mind is switched on all the time. So you have to experience it to try it. Okay, so that in the longer term, this is what I recommend is start looking. You can start Googling, right? I mean, YouTube is your friend. We'll talk about in a more structured, formal learning in the later section. And if you got any question, come to the coaching session. Okay, develop metabolic flexibility is the long-term ultimate goal to prevent this metabolic dysfunction from interrupting your sleep and making you wake up in the middle of the night. But tonight, you've got a solution to help you. All right, next, what else can you do? Urination, right? This is what do you do to address urination? In the immediate term, this is what you can do. Now, if you have metabolic dysfunction, you are also likely to be thirsty very frequently. Almost like you can't drink enough water. So water is healthy, but too much water is not good for you. It dilutes the electrolytes in your blood. You can actually die when you drink too much water. And there are documented cases where marathon runners drank too much water and literally dropped dead and had a heart attack. It diluted the electrolyte in the blood so much, they died. Okay, so very important. What you want to do is when you feel thirsty, and this is something that is a change of habit. Most people are thirsty, go. All right, and then half an hour later, go, and then they end up going to the toilet 5,000 times. Especially about 2 hours before bed. Yeah, you go thirsty, try not to drink, but if you get thirsty, get a sip of water. Let it sit in your mouth. Sit in your mouth. Let it sit for a little while and sip. Savor the water. Taste the water. Be mindful about it. And then put it down. Only drink if you need it again. So don't gulp. Sip. Another thing that you can look into is just be aware of diuretics. Now, diuretics are basically substances that help clear the fluid from your body. So there are some diuretics that's really effective or potent urine generators. So taking that before bed is not helpful. Some of them are very common. You're probably already aware. Caffeine, so in coffee, in chocolate, is a potent diuretic. Do not take it before bed. Not only disrupts deep sleep, but it makes you urinate. Okay, so but something that you may not know is dandelion extract, hibiscus tea. Some people have hibiscus, parsley, caraway seeds, horsetail, some herbal supplements are known diuretics. Avoid them in the evening because that will make you want to go to pee. So that's what you could do today. What can you do in the longer term? So develop metabolic flexibility, already mentioned it. Now, another thing that you want to look at is from the Chinese traditional medicine point of view. So in Chinese medicine, people who are urinating frequently are weak in the kidneys. So they have kidney weakness. Their yin and yang is out of balance, and therefore the kidney is weak. Weak kidneys means frequent urination, low energy, quite depressed, inability to focus. There's a lot of people usually who have poor sleep generally have a poor kidney, and you might want to consult a traditional Chinese medicine doctor and get some herb. And I'm not kidding. This thing works. My mom had weak kidney, and she went and see a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner, and it helped tremendously. Along with everything else I've already talked about, highly recommend you investigate and look into that, especially if this is a chronic problem for you. Okay, that's a long-term solution. All right, next, nightmares. So immediate solution. What can you do with nightmares? Disruption. Acceptance commitment therapy. So ACT is, if you heard of cognitive behavioral therapy, this is like generation 3. So CBT has evolved over time and it's gradually improving, but CBT can in itself create a lot of stress for people. For example, only use your bed for sleep and sex and nothing else, right? Don't wake up, don't read in a bed. It's very strict. Also, never take a nap. Don't take a nap. No matter what you do, don't take a nap. Force yourself to stay up until you go to bed. Okay? It's very strict, and that can create in itself a sense of stress. And what they notice, that's not helpful because the stress is the last thing you want for sleep. So acceptance behavioral therapy, commitment therapy is something that's going to really help you. And I'm going to give you a brief introduction to what that is like in the next section. So hang on there. I'll talk to you about later. In the longer term solution, check for mold. Check for mold in your room, in the carpet, in your bed, in your curtains. Just look for mold. Especially you have vivid, really strong nightmares that just wake you up and just you can really call it. It's something that's really strong. It's probably mold, because what mold does is creates these toxins, and the toxins creates a stress response in the body, and that fight or flight system is triggered, and that is what make you wake up in the middle of the night screaming. So check for mold. That's another thing, and learn how to process emotions. So emotional management or emotional intelligence is a really powerful thing. It's one of the things that you can learn to master where it becomes a natural thing for you. If you're poor at managing emotions, like you get pushed around by emotions, negative emotion, happy emotion, you say things you regret, you overreact, you find you panic when there's, like everyone else is still calm, but you're panicking all the time. Learn to control that. There's a course that I do lead. It's called Search Inside Yourself. I don't do it as often these days because of COVID, but look into Search Inside Yourself. It's a leadership course originally developed within Google for their executive leadership. And Richard Fernandez, former director of executive education at Google, actually worked with Chapman Tang in coming up with the structure of the course in consultation with neuroscientists, with mindfulness instructors, and psychologists. So it's a very powerful course, in terms of experiential learning, that help you better master your emotional control to both lead yourself and lead your family and other people, having better relationship. Looking at that in the longer term is really helpful. And if you got any question, you want to find out more about searching inside yourself and my experience around that, please ping me and ask me about it in the coaching. Okay, nightmares. So we talk about nightmares. All right, looking after loved ones. So my son has severe asthma for a number of years, and took us a long time to figure out what to do with it. But he would just be waking up in the night, scratching his arms, especially his elbow, until it bleeds. His legs, the back of his knee, so much so it's really distressing for him. And as a parent, it's just something that you hate to see your child suffer. But at the same time, I have to hold his hand. I have to tie his hand together so he doesn't scratch because he's got bandages on. He can't break his skin anymore, and it's not going to help. So that, as you know, is very disruptive. So that bit we cannot control. But what can we do? Okay? The immediate solution is really learn to get to sleep, back to sleep faster. Learn to manage the disruption, the emotion triggers that happens as a result of looking after our loved ones. So and this is what we can do to better deal with what's happening. But in the longer term, this is what we did. We took ownership of the solution, because going to the doctor, they prescribe steroid, cortisone cream, just all kinds of ointments, just nothing worked. They don't work. So the doctor said, they'll grow up out of it. We did not want to accept that. And thank goodness we did not accept that. We took ownership. The doctors, they live in a different world to us. We live with this every single day. So we took ownership. We learned about the root causes, about the problem. And this is something I talked about earlier in terms of the mindset of fixing complex health issues or complex situations where, for example, sleep, you're having poor sleep, you're doing a course to fundamentally upgrade your understanding of sleep so that you're taking ownership. You can do that for your family as well. Don't take what your doctors say as gospel. Always challenge, always question, learn, ask questions, and fire your doctors if they're not willing to work with you on that. So, okay, so that is just something that will help you in the long term in looking after loved ones and dealing with the sleep. So let's look at how do you get back to sleep after waking up. Okay, very hard, very easy. Okay, you think it's very hard. I've already shown you a really good technique. As part of the, I think it was day 2 or day 3, I talk about the ocean breath, heart coherent visualization. So heart coherence visualization, just a quick reminder, go back and check the video, but you put your hand on your heart and you go through a process of breathing while visualizing what's happening. And as you breathe, almost like you're breathing as if you're about to snore. So we call that the ocean breath. It's actually a very ancient martial art practice. It's been practiced for centuries, but it sounds like this. When you do that, that triggers your parasympathetic nervous system, the calming nervous system, to calm you back down. So doing that a few times, it's a good way to calm yourself and just get back to bed. Another thing you can do, acceptance commitment therapy, ACT. So this is what you do. Accept. You can't sleep. You might get agitated with that. You might get irritated, impatient because of the next day that you have a lot of things going on. You need your sleep. But just put that mentally, I need to sleep, aside for a sec. Just imagine you're packing it with packing tape. I have to sleep. Tomorrow is a big day. Just mentally package it up, put it aside on the floor, and just accept I can't sleep. And that is okay. You might your reaction is, no, it's not okay. No, just put that aside and package it, mentally package it. That's not okay. Okay, just drop it on the floor. Accept, practice acceptance. And this is what you do. Do not identify with the fact that you sleep. Oh, I am insomniac. I am insomniac. Here I go again. I can't sleep. Stupid Stephen. There you go again. Like, you're stupid. You're like, what are you trying to do? This self-criticism, this self-condemnation is not going to help you. So what I want you to do instead, you still want to be honest and factual, but just use the word, I experience insomnia. I feel awake. I feel I can't sleep. Rather than identifying with it and saying, I am an insomniac. I am. It's not you. What you feel, once you can create a separation between how you feel and who you are, it liberates your mind and your soul to be able to separate that and diminish that bit that you don't want. Who you are is not what you feel. Separate that. Okay? I am not my emotion. Think about that. But if you have a strong identity, as in affiliation with a particular thing that's really difficult to let go, instead of saying I am an insomniac or I suck and condemn yourself, practice it. This is called a diffusion technique. You can take a deep breath and say whatever you identify. I. Pause. You're going to pause. Just notice the pause. Okay? Now say the next word. M. And you're going to pause. Again, focus on the pause. And then say the next bit of your identity. Breathe in, insomniac. And notice the pause. Practice that a few times. What that does is it puts that spacing out, and you're gradually reprogramming and creating a separation between how you feel and who you are. And this in itself is a game changer for those people who are just sticky with this thing, that this is going to get in the way of you being able to get back to sleep. So three things to remember in terms of acceptance commitment therapy. There's of course a whole lot more. You can go and do a course on ACT, but this is a good introduction, and it will help you very, very quickly to help you get back to sleep. Okay, so quite a few things we've already covered. Now it's time back to your core. Time for action. So what is your action? Your action is, let me bring it up. Tell the community what you want to do with today's information. How are you going to put this into practice? When you share this with a community, you create your own accountability. You're more likely to actually carry out. In fact, you're 200% more likely. There's a study done out of Harvard to show that you're twice more likely to carry something out when you announce it to someone else. So this works. Then, notice any improvement, share that with your community as well. Not only does this encourage yourself, it encourages others. It shows what is possible with little tweaks. I've shown you a whole heap of various tricks and tips, and this is going to where you're going to start take this information and make it your own.